So today we're going to be discussing the moving averages of Bitcoin, specifically the SMAs, the 20, the 100 and 200 and sometimes the 50 because on the smaller time frames it's not being respected right now. But yeah, Bitcoin usually respects some of these moving averages and they act as resistance or support lines. So it's important to check which ones are, you know, taking the lead in the movement. Moving averages also can be used to assess momentum. So are we in downtrend or uptrend, and how, or we're in consolidation phase. For example, on the 4 hour right now, we see that it's currently consolidation phase, but based on timeline and horizon, I think we might see the movement soon, especially when the VWAP collapse, and which is that one, the quarter. Yeah, when that collapses, it usually means some big movement in either direction might be occurring soon, or just the consolidation phase might elongate. So that means maybe we're halfway through in consolidation, or the big move might come soon, for example. We're gonna check some examples in history as well. But before we dive deeper, my name is Mo. I'm a computer and data scientist. I've been a crypto investor for the past 7 years now, and I was able to turn a small, humble portfolio into 6 figures the previous cycle, or this cycle if you include the bear market, right? So if you want to learn on the strategies and things that I did that worked out for me and what didn't work out so well, try watching this video, and if you like it, subscribe and like. So first we're going to be discussing the 4 hour, right? What I usually look at is the 200 and the 50 and the 100 and 200 SMAs, and then check different time frames and seeing what's being respected and what do they tell us about that. For example, right now the 50-week SMA is absolutely not being respected in any way. If you just cancel out all of them, you can see Bitcoin just goes under it and above it like it doesn't even exist, right? So I'm not going to talk about that right here. But on the shorter time frame here, this exact move, and this exact move is very relevant and important for several reasons. Before we dive deeper into that, I'll show you why, the reason. So if you pull out the 200 or the 100, right, and you go to the weekly, then you do see we are about trying to break it, and have been resisting the break for a long time now, right? Why the 100-week SMA is very important is because in previous bear markets, when you break that level, there, stop please. All right. So in previous bear markets, when you break that, you just accelerate downward very, very quickly and aggressively. And this why monitoring that break means, being on the right side of the trade or not. And if, for example, most people are thinking maybe of when to load up on Bitcoin, I get a lot of that question. I would usually, of course, nothing said in this video is financial advice, but I would usually say the bear market might not be ended, so monitor this area and see if we can have the final move down to start accumulating here, right? Or if you're shorting, then breaking that level is a good entry point. Or if you're thinking of longing, then watch how you're, that is behaving here. For me, I'm thinking of maybe shorting, and also I'm really keen on accumulating a lot of Bitcoin again on these levels, which of course the future levels could be somewhere, anywhere, but based on some calculations, it would be around this zone. And it's very hard to find any concrete exact level. To be honest, at the start of the cycle, I expected Bitcoin to reach around 150,000, so that was my aim. We reached 124, but of course, as the bull market, accelerated, that was my goal back there when I was planning to invest into that move. But as we started to go up higher and higher and higher, my target was like 200, 300K. But then I always, that's why planning is so important, right? You always come back to the original plan and you're like, okay, so the cycle's almost ending, selling volume is dominating, the volume footprint is showing weakness, and you just tried to expand at the right time, but it was failed and the bulls couldn't take it home. That's why this would have been here a great exit, which is what I did, right? And even though my target was kind of getting raised higher, but because I've planned previously there, I was able to go back to my senses and leave my emotions and be like, yeah, the cycle is almost over. These targets are unrealistic by many measures, especially in current market conditions and on economic data. For example, the employment rate is still skyrocketing, and inflation back then was also not doing well, right? Let's remove all the drawings. So it just wasn't logical, right? It wasn't logical in any sense. Yeah, another example right here. That big move happened when you broke the 100-week SMA, right? And again, here you see it every bear market cycle. When we broke the 100-week SMA, it followed by a big move, and of course you got resistance there, but at some point you do break it. Okay, sometimes the resistance is above it, but nevertheless the same idea does apply. And you can, the 100-week SMA is so important. You see that bull market zone that happened there, it happened exactly on the breaking of the 100-week SMA, right? So moving averages can tell us a lot of where we are and what to expect. So the idea here is to monitor what could happen if we finally break down from here. Okay, so we want to know when is the breakdown going to happen. That's the probabilistically, right? So investing is all about probabilistic. If you're thinking of becoming a profitable speculator in the market, then your thinking has to be probabilistic rather than deterministic, right? So you just assign a probabilistic outcome to a certain event, and what I would do if that outcome is achieved, and what I do to exit if I'm wrong, right? So at the beginning of my trading, I was my size was too large always, right? So I would always think about, yeah, I think it's doing that. I wasn't thinking about how much I would lose, and I would lose a lot of money, a lot. You know, that was expensive tuition, very, very, very expensive tuition. But right now, 1%, you know, like 1% move against me and I'm out. 1% loss is my target. I don't take more than that. And sometimes I continue to probe, but right now that's getting mixed up. A lot of 1% is getting involved. So my idea is, if you want to go short, like what I'm trying to do right now, and of course, if you're not going short, then monitoring it makes you get literally good Bitcoin prices, right? So you want to know, when is the breakdown going to happen and when are we going to get support, right? So if that breakdown happens and you get a weekly close below the 100-week SMA and maybe followed by some large volume or continuation candle, we talked about continuation candles and large volumes a lot. If you get those with a breakdown, then you can be certain that we're going down. But you know, breaking that level alone is not a certain thing. There are other things that have to also align, right? So breaking is one thing, but you could also get a fake out, and Bitcoin loves to do loves to do fake out. You know, like all this cycle was just fake outs and fake outs and fake outs. That's one fake out right here that, you know, liquidated a lot of traders. So, and the biggest liquidation event in Bitcoin history was also a fake out, which was right here. So be careful of fake outs. Okay. Oh, actually the level we're finding support at is almost near the 50-week SMA, but also that corresponds with the bull market support band where we got rejected on that wick right there. Just as levels to keep in mind. Now, all right, we're getting right now a short-term reversal or short-term strength. Now the idea is this strength going to continue and go to the upside, or are we gonna just stall there for a little bit and then continue our way down? That's the goal, right, of understanding this video. That's why we go to shorter time frames and we go to lower moving averages, right, and see what Bitcoin has been respecting to understand what's the probabilistic chance that we might go higher if we keep breaking moving averages to the upside, and what's the probabilistic chance to go lower if we keep breaking if we keep respecting the resistance of the moving averages, which means we are trending downwards, right? Momentum. here, interestingly, the 24-hour SMA is where we're holding support, which is good because that shows that the bulls cannot even take us higher than that, right? They cannot take us to the 100 or 50 or 200 for our SMAs. They're just failing to do that. Maybe they have touched the 200 4-hour SMA. I'm just gonna, you see the time there for hour, 12-hour day, week. I'm just gonna say 20 SMA, and that refers to the time there, to the candle times we're using. So yeah, the 200 SMA rejected Bitcoin right here, which shows good support. So my ideal case is to never break that and maybe hover around here. That's fine, and continue to the downside. That's fine, as long as we don't break that, because that has been broken up once, so Bitcoin respects that, and it was major resistant this whole way right here. Okay, this whole way does acting as major resistance for Bitcoin. So it is not easy to break that to the downside or to the upside. Here we broke it to the upside, and we stayed above it for some short of time, but here we just dip below it very quickly. And the hope is here to keep ourselves below here, to go down so we can accumulate more Bitcoins. That's if you're in the camp of the 4-year cycle, which is, I think, is reasonable to assume. And why would we assume that, right? So let's clear some of those. First thing first, geopolitics. Let's just go maybe look at one video to show the intensity that is going on.
Right now, the Middle East is on edge. In the last few days, reports and social media claims have suggested that a U.S. attack on Iran could begin at any moment, even within hours. So what's actually happening, and what's noise? Let's break it down.
Strike could happen anytime.
The claims began circulating in mid-January 2026, with reports saying the United States quietly informed Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE about a possible strike on Iran. Some posts suggested this warning came through official diplomatic channels. But here's the key detail. Major international outlets have not confirmed that an attack is imminent or hours away. No official confirmation, no declared strike. That distinction matters.
The meaning is that's a lot of military equipment that is expensive to move and is positioned right where the conflict is, right? Also, China I've seen a post or some news that China sent 12 warplanes with aid to Iran and stuff like that. Saudi Arabia is getting a pact with Pakistan and India, and UAE is following suit with doing other pacts, right? You're getting a lot of pacts, and this is what you usually see in world wars. For example, in World War One, you did see a lot of alignment. For example, the British with the Russians and the French, and the Germans and the Austro-Hungarians, all of that Slavic stuff. And you saw something similar as well in World War II. And the tension for World War One was building pretty. Now what you have is like NATO versus BRICS. That's one alignment, but you also got the Arabian alignment here, and you've got some other alignments there, and the NATO alignment is breaking down or something like this, and you're getting these tensions. I don't know if Bitcoin would do well in such time. I know Bitcoin's like maybe considered as safety from corruption and government control and all that, but it still behaves as a risk asset. And I think that's why it would not go down so low, because you have to consider all factors and the views and the narratives that goes around Bitcoin, and which ones are dominant and which one can suppress the domination of other ones, right? So some people are gonna fly to Bitcoin because they're scared their country might lose its value because of some war or some financial receipt, like what happens in every or that. Just remember, there's the inflation that goes by printing money to just finance the war that happens. That's happened in World War II, and a lot of countries went bankrupt. That's how Britain went bankrupt. It was financing a lot of its wars, and then a lot of stuff happened there, right? Germany too. And that, of course, some of people will go there, but a lot of people just flock to gold and maybe store some cash, real estate, and all that stuff as well, right? And Bitcoin will always be seen as a riskier asset due to its volatility. And people with large money is not going to put all of their money into Bitcoin. They might put like a few percents if they want to, but those who have a lot of Bitcoins might consider that as a threat and sell it, right? So you have to consider all point of views. Yeah, so there's a lot about, for example, just one more point about World War. It all triggers in one point, right? So I don't know how we went from moving average to World War. That was supposed to be for another video, but still important. World War One got triggered in an instant when the Austrian, I think he was like some prince, he got assassinated, right? And just from one assassination and due to large tensions being built up before, just one man died and World War One broke out. You know, all hell went to loose because one assassinations. And you need to understand there are a lot of assassinations every day. Not every day, but like every month or something. For example, a lot of Hezbollah's people got assassinated. Iran's military people as well, but that's not on the American side, I guess. But you still get assassinations, right? In one way or another. So yeah, let's come back to the moving averages. The first key of key resistance is this 20-week SMA, right? We should hold it as support, resistance, sorry. So as long as we hold that as resistance and we see some rejection of there, which we are seeing some rejection even before hitting there, which is kind of nice for the bears, right? That shows some weakness to the downside and gives a high probabilistic chance, but that's a very small move, so it doesn't count that much, right? So yeah, we should hold that, and the 200-week SMA somewhere here. That might confirm that we might play here a little bit or just crash right below it. But in the case that we break above it, then the second line of resistance would be, of course, at 200 SMA of the 4-hour time frame. If we break that, then it's the bulls. I think it's time for the bulls. And maybe we would reach higher levels, because if we're really fighting to this, we couldn't stay below here for that long. That shows the bears are getting exhausted and the bulls are winning the tide here, and therefore it could signal some higher probabilistic chance to the upside. So yeah, these are the moving averages I'm right now paying attention to, and those are what are gonna tell me where should I be positioned at the time. Also, one more thing that's interesting we've talked about maybe yesterday is, not yesterday, like 3 days ago, is Bitcoin versus gold breaking down. So when we discussed it was around here, and we saw the rejection there, the lower high there, and we have discussed that we will be dropping down, we will be breaking down and finding support here. So this is where the second support should be. I think Bitcoin is gonna continue to outperform Bitcoin. Gold is gonna continue to outperform Bitcoin for the time being. Same thing for silver. We discussed a similar strategy. Oh my god, that changed so much since then. So when we discussed it, it was maybe around here, and that was the support we were looking at, or we broke down below there, and that's the last line of support before we actually make a lower macro low on the Bitcoin against silver chart, which is historic. This is a big blow for us Bitcoiners. This is unbelievable. Silver is not more valuable than Bitcoin. I do not believe so. The digital gold, that's a sad chart to see. But yeah, if we go lower here, I'm gonna be very sad. I'm gonna be very sad. Yeah, so that's all we have for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.